Hello again, welcome back to another primary school teaching YouTube video. Today we're going to be having a look at the dreaded lesson observations. So we're going to be talking about the things you can do to prepare for them well, the things you can do during them to keep yourself on top of the game, the things you can do after to make sure you're reflecting back on that lesson observation, and all the kind of tips and tricks that I've got to help you guys get through those lesson observations. I've just got back in from work, so I need to get myself sorted, get myself set up, camera set up ready, and then I'll be back in a moment to get you started on how to get through a teaching lesson observation. So we're here today and we're going to talk about having a lesson observation and the kinds of things you can do as a primary school teacher to really up your game in these observations and make sure you're not worrying too much, you're not stressing out about them beforehand, and that you're really hitting the mark with these lesson observations. My first tip for these is going to be making sure that you prep before the lesson. Making sure you're getting your prep done, getting your resources ready, getting all that sort of stuff ready long in advance before you start teaching. Now this might sound obvious, but for some people, they might do their prep only the day before, and while for most days that will be fine, on a day when you have a lesson observation, the printer might break, someone might not be in, so you have to run around chasing after them. There might be all sorts of these things that come up and appear on a lesson observation day that you wouldn't normally have to think about, so you're going to need to make sure that you get your stuff ready as early as possible. Think about the resources you're going to need in the lesson. Do you need to get anything out of, say, the maths cupboard, the English cupboard, or something you're not quite sure where it is? Don't leave it till that morning to go and find it. Find it the day before, find it 2 days before, and get it ready if no one else needs it. Are you going to need to use the printer? First off, is your printer very reliable? Is it going to be easy to use on the day? If it's not, then get it done early. Find a free 15 minutes, a free 20 minutes when you just nip to the printer, get it printed a few days early and have it out in your classroom ready. That means on the day of your observation, you're going to walk into school and you're going to know that your printing is already sorted, your resources are out on the side, and you're just going to walk in and get ready to teach. That will take out a load of the stress that you might feel on an observation day, so make sure you get yourself ready beforehand. In terms of when to do all this prep, I would advise anywhere between a couple of days or up to a week, depending on how structured your planning is. Some schools only plan roughly and the lessons are quite fluid in terms of what is taught when, in which case you might not need to worry too much about what you're teaching at this point. In which case you might not need to prep this so early because you won't be sure what you're teaching in the next week. Other schools that are very structured and you'll know what you're teaching 2 weeks time from where you are now. In which case get your prepping done as soon as you can, because as soon as it's done and it's out the way, you're sorted, you're ready. So I would say, depending on your planning, either up to a week, maybe even 2 weeks early. Make sure as well as part of this prep you're thinking about the learning journey you're going on with those children to get to the observation. Obviously, if the learning journey is going to be a straightforward and you know what stages the kids are doing up to the observation, it'll be easier when you get there. If the kids have had all their learning and it's all been nice and smooth and they're ready and they know the steps they've taken to get to that point, then they're going to be on it and ready to answer those questions when they get asked them about what they're learning. So make sure your learning journey up to observation is as smooth as possible. The next thing that I'm going to talk about when it comes to lesson observation is knowing what the people observing are looking for in that lesson. They're not going to be in there looking for every single possible teaching quality. They're going to be in there picking out certain specific things that they want you to work on. So make sure you have a discussion with them beforehand on what are they looking for, what kind of things can you really hit to make sure you're getting those targets. Now we all know teachers have targets that they have to work towards every single year, and you want to make sure that in these observations you're showing off that you're hitting these targets. These targets you're going to try and pass are the ones that will help you increase your salary the next school year. If this is something that you think, oh actually, what is a teacher's salary? Then have a look at this video up here and you'll be able to see the primary school teacher's salary from the first year all the way to the very top scale of being a head teacher. It ends up going over £100,000, so if that interests you, then go have a look up there. Once you've had that discussion and you know what your targets are for that lesson observation, then make sure you go through your lesson planning and that you can pick out the different areas where you want to hit these. So you want to know you're hitting every single target at least a couple of times during that lesson to really show off that you're aiming for those targets and that you're going to be hitting them consistently throughout your teaching. You also need to think about the observer and the types of things they like and dislike. Teaching is very, very subjective, and it's up to the person that's looking at the teaching and to what they think of the level you're teaching at. So make sure you think about the things they like and that they dislike. If there's a style of teaching they dislike, it might be mixed ability groupings, it might be the same ability groupings, it might be having children running around the classroom, it might be keeping them all sat down. There's all sorts of things that teachers like or dislike, and make sure you're hitting the things that they like, because they're more likely to enjoy your lesson and enjoy the observation if you've done this. Obviously, try to avoid the things they dislike, as teachers that dislike things will not think they are good quality teaching, and so your observation score will not be quite as high. By all means though, have a discussion with them. If you really want to do something that you know they're not quite sure on, discuss with the observer beforehand on why you're doing that, and see if you can come to an opinion or come to an agreement between the two of you over why you're doing that, and actually that will reinforce their learning and help the children progress on. Also, at this point, when you're thinking about what you need to be hitting, focus on your strengths. As a teacher, you'll know you're stronger in some areas than you are in others, and so if you can, make sure lesson observation focuses on your strengths. Obviously, this might not be something you can pick, you might be told you're doing lesson observation in this, but if you can, focus on your strengths, do something you know you're good at, you know you're good at teaching. Make sure that it's something the kids need. Obviously, you can't go back to something you taught at the start of the year if you're doing a summer term objective. Build in your style of teaching that you know you're going to be good at. My next tip for you in preparing for a lesson observation, making sure you're aware of what the kids' subject knowledge is. Your children will have a range of subject knowledge all throughout the class. Some will be absolutely smashing at that topic, some might be struggling with it. You need to know each and every child, where they're at and what kind of progress you're expecting them to make. You want all children to make good progress, but they won't be making it from the same levels. So make sure you're aware of the different abilities. You can really focus on every single child and make sure they're going to make that good progress. You'll want to look at what they already know before you teach that lesson. So think about the things that they've learnt beforehand, maybe the things they learnt last year, or if you're recapping a subject that you've taught previously, then make sure you've looked at what they've done and where their strengths are. Have a look at their weaknesses and think, how can you build on these? Are there some misconceptions that you need to focus on and overcome? Is there somewhere where children are just not understanding where to put that apostrophe, where those inverted commas go? You can target these and put in your planning that you're targeting these and why. This will really make sure that you're showing that reflective teaching and looking back at your previous teaching and the child's previous learning and hitting those targets that you need to hit. Once you know where the children are starting, then you'll know how they're going to move forward in that lesson. You need to show that all children are making good progress, and if you're not quite sure how they're going to make progress, then you're going to struggle to get some outstanding teaching in there. So make sure you look at the children, where their abilities are, and how you're going to move them on to the next step. Again, make sure you're showing this in your planning. Show which children are where and how you're moving them forward. That differentiation will really, really help. Obviously, differentiation is really important in your classroom, and you need to differentiate across a wide range of abilities in your class. So make sure, as part of that learning about the children's knowledge of where they are, you think about where their different ability ranges are, so you can make sure all their children are making the right progress. Obviously, you're aiming for good progress with all ability groups, and they're going to need different ways to learn to make that good progress. So this is what we're going to go on to next. As part of your differentiation, they're going to need different resources to learn. So think about, where are you going to get those resources? How are you going to get them? Do you need to print them off online? Are you going to need to make something? Are you going to need to borrow something from another teacher in the school? Prepping those resources and making sure they're all ready before, so your differentiation for all ability ranges is good, will be really important to make sure you're getting towards that outstanding teaching. The other quite clear way you're going to differentiate is through the work you're giving the children. Not all children can complete the same work, and it's important that you're making sure they're accessing the right curriculum while also being able to complete the task given. So make sure you've got different standards of work to give to different children, always with a challenge for them to complete. You can't ever have any children sat down not doing anything. That is not a good sign of outstanding teaching. So make sure you've always got another challenge for them to do, another thing for them to move on to. That'll really help their learning progress, and that'll really help your teaching, showing how amazing it is. If you're wondering about the kind of time a teacher might fit all this prep in, then have a look in the video up there, and you'll see a video all about a day in the life of a primary school teacher and the different times they might get to school, go through all the lessons, and then when they go home in the evening. Check that out and let me know what you think in the comments below. The final thing we're going to focus on in this video is your mentality. Now, teaching is a tough job. Teaching is a job where you do get observed and you have people coming to watch how you're doing most terms, if not most half terms. This is something that you really get used to as a teacher, and the quicker you sort your mentality about a lesson observation, the better it will be. Because your mentality is so important to your teaching. You know when you open up the door in the morning, you're bright, bubbly, happy, energetic, you're a brilliant person. You're the best person you can be for those children walking in. And this is what you need to be like about these lesson observations. All they are is you teaching another lesson. You're showing off how amazing you can be as a teacher, the same way you do to the children every day. So make sure that you're doing that, you're being that bright, bubbly, energetic person. And as soon as the people observing you get that energy, they'll instantly be thinking, oh wow, they're really putting in the effort here. So be that person, get that mentality right, be that amazing, happy, energetic teacher you are, and I'm sure you'll smash your observation. Make sure you are teaching in your own teaching style as well. There's no point suddenly in a lesson observation changing up your teaching style and doing something different to what you've always done. You teach well. If you're employed at a school, then you're obviously a teacher that is working hard. So do your best to follow that teaching style. Do what the kids are used to, make sure their routines are in place, and that will make sure your lessons run as smoothly as possible. Focusing what the children need is really important as well. Obviously you're going to try and make this lesson amazing, but if it's a completely random lesson in the middle of your normal routine of lessons, it's going to be weird. The kids aren't going to respond to it correctly, and it's going to go a bit downhill. So make sure you're teaching what the children actually need in their next lesson. Now, this might not be a lesson that you particularly think will look good as an observation lesson, but if it's what the children need, it's what the children need. It's your job to make it show off, make it fancy, and make sure that the children are engaging in it. The children aren't going to engage in a boring lesson. You can do observations on any lesson in your curriculum. You can make that lesson interesting and engaging for the children, and by doing that, you'll be showing your outstanding teaching qualities. So make sure your mentality's right, and you'll be smashing that lesson observation. The final tip I'm going to give you is trying to make sure that your lesson is set for a normal time of the day. Let's say you teach English first thing in the morning. When the children come into school, they sit down and they know that's going to be their English lesson. Let's say you have a lesson observation and you're going to get observed in geography, and you decide, I'm going to make sure the kids are focused and I'm going to teach geography first thing in the morning. If you don't prep those children, make sure they're ready for that geography lesson, they're going to think all hell's broken loose. They're going to be confused, they're going to be out of their routine, and that just starts the fidgety, disruptive behaviour that isn't the way forward in a classroom. So if you've got a geography lesson and you're getting observed in it, try and teach it at the time you would normally teach geography. This will make sure you're in your normal routine, and also make sure the kids are in their normal routine. And it's so important to be in that routine as part of your observation. Those routines are what build learning in your classroom. They're the things that make sure the kids are on the task all the time, engaged. So keep those routines as much as possible, and that'll help you get into the swing of things with your observation. So I hope you've enjoyed this video about lesson observations. They're no teacher's favourite things in the world. They are one of those necessary evils that we have as teachers to make sure we're all on the same page and that we're all just keeping going with what we should be doing. But hopefully through some of these tips you'll be able to get yourself sorted and ready for those observations. If you've got one coming up and you think you might want some help with it, then please drop me a message down below, let me know any questions you might have, and I'll see what I can do to help. If it's not something I've taught before, I'll be sure to ask some of the other teachers I know and that I work with and see if I can get back to you. If you've enjoyed this video, then drop a like down below, leave a comment just to let me know what you think, and subscribe to my channel. It really does support me in helping get this video out there, getting to talk to more teachers, getting advice out to those people training to be teaching. So I'd really appreciate it if you could do that. And hopefully I'll see you in my next video, which I release them on a Tuesday and a Saturday at 11 o'clock. So be sure to look out for the next one. See you soon.